Think of the 1980s, and a very specific aesthetic usually comes to mind. Bright neon signs, drum machine-heavy pop music, a culture obsessed with loud colors and shiny new consumer goods. You plugged a gray plastic box into your television, pressed a power button, and a digital world appeared in your living room. The Nintendo Entertainment System perfectly embodied a society eager to embrace a frictionless, high-tech future. Underneath that plastic casing, there was a persistent hum of dread. Two massive superpowers had tens of thousands of nuclear warheads pointed at each other. The threat of total global annihilation was a quiet, daily reality. April 1986 captures this exact tension. Over 30 days, society sprinted toward technological and cultural milestones, while simultaneously managing a string of international crises that threatened to tear it all down. Looking closely at the specific month shatters our simplistic nostalgia. It reveals how people used bright, brassy entertainment to cope with the very real possibility of the world ending. Early April offered a rare diplomatic success story. Prime Minister Brian Mulroney and President Ronald Reagan met for the Shamrock Summit, displaying an unusual level of personal rapport and unity between North American leaders. They gathered to address sulfur dioxide pollution, the main cause of acid rain, which was visibly destroying forests across the continent. Together, they agreed on joint environmental policies to aggressively tackle the crisis. Further west, Vancouver was finishing preparations for Expo 86. The city had built a gleaming geodesic dome for the last Great World's Fair held in North America, entirely focused on a highly optimistic theme, World in Motion. And the culture was absolutely moving. Movie theaters were packed with people watching Tom Hanks in The Money Pit. On television, pastel suits and Ferraris to find the aesthetic of Miami Vice. Meanwhile, on the radio, Prince entirely dominated the charts with the minimalist funk of Kiss. Between the environmental agreements, the massive global fairs, and a booming pop culture industry, the public had every reason to feel a sense of absolute control and security. Then, early in the month, a bomb went off in the Labelle discotheque in West Berlin. In direct retaliation, the United States launched Operation El Dorado Canyon on April 15th, sending American F-111 bombers to execute precise airstrikes against military targets in Libya. Suddenly, the nightly news broadcast international violence directly into those comfortable living rooms. The sense of domestic tranquility vanished, replaced by the loud, unpredictable reality of global conflict. Even the daily distractions felt the shock of unexpected collapse. In the NHL playoffs, the Battle of Alberta was meant to be a showcase of regional dominance and predictable athletic excellence. On April 30th, rookie Steve Smith attempted a routine clearing pass. The puck hit his own goalie's leg and slid into the net. That single, accidental motion eliminated the powerhouse Edmonton Oilers from the playoffs. Whether it was a sudden military engagement across the globe or a bizarre miscalculation on the ice, April proved that carefully managed systems could derail in a fraction of a second. The ultimate breakdown occurred on April 26th. Reactor number 4 at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in the Soviet Union exploded. The initial response was silence. The Soviet government restricted information, leaving the rest of the world entirely unaware of the invisible, lethal threat leaking into the atmosphere. This animated map illustrates the fallout trajectory. We see the radioactive cloud forming over Ukraine, pushing north and west across international borders. Notice how the dispersal reaches the Atlantic. A localized failure became a physical threat drifting over Europe and North America. As radiation levels spiked across multiple countries, the #1 song on the radio was Falco's Rock Me Amadeus, an eccentric, upbeat German-language track playing on loop. People drove to work, listened to upbeat synthesizers, and wondered if the rain falling on their cars was irradiated. The darkest fear of the atomic age arrived right next to the glossiest pop culture of the decade. The neon aesthetics and the nuclear anxiety existed side by side because they required each other. The constant stream of entertainment provided a necessary psychological buffer against a news cycle filled with genuine horror. April 1986 captures the true rhythm of the 1980s. It was a society leaning into excess, dancing loudly while entirely aware of the danger right outside the door. We often try to categorize decades as universally prosperous or universally terrifying. The historical record reveals a much messier reality. Millions of people watched The Cosby Show on a Thursday night, and a few days later watched the fallout of a nuclear meltdown. The trivial and the tragic always share the exact same timeline. Making sense of the past means looking at the plastic and the panic together. 30 Days in 1986 show us exactly what it looks like when a terrified world decides to keep itself in motion.